أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. We seek refuge in God from Satan the rejected. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful. Salāmun Alaykum. Peace be upon you. God willing, today we want to have another session of studying the Quran, translated by Dr. Rashad Khalifa, the Messenger of the Covenant. And we are reading the authorized English version. And inshallah, may God help us to have a good understanding of the verses as we read them, and may God increase the guidance of everybody, inshallah. So let's get started. So the subtitle states, disbelievers refuse to accept the completeness of the Quran. We have cited in this Quran every kind of example, but the human being is the most argumentative creature. SubhanAllah, you see that. You see that always. It is the case with the disbelievers. And when we say disbelievers, it could be like anybody who is technically not believing in God, like in existence of God, and they would be considered atheists, or those people who are like agnostics, meaning that those people who state that they don't know whether God exists or not. Or it could be hypocrites. Hypocrites are the ones who say that they believe that God exists, but they are putting something or somebody next to God. And this is very prevalent, and there are many, many people who have this feature. And one of the characteristics of these people is that they refuse to accept the completeness of the Quran. Because when you tell them, for example, you talk to, say, you talk to Sunnis or you talk to Shias, and these are the denominations which are in the fold of Islam, and they are obviously corrupted, and they are, following a false religion because they have created their own version of Islam or submission, and they are following man-made thoughts and man-made ideologies, and specifically they're following Hadith and they're following Sunnah, lies attributed to Prophet Muhammad. And so these people don't accept the completeness of the Quran. One of their, for example, very famous argument that they bring is that they say, well, if Quran is complete and fully detailed as you state, where is the details of doing contact prayers or salat, which we have discussed, in previous sessions in detail, that we have the mathematical miracle of the Quran, showing that every part of the contact prayer salat, every word that comes out of our mouth is mathematically coded, and it is according to the the 19 the number 19 common denominator of the Quran and the mathematical miracle of the Quran, and every part of it is confirmed, actually. So we don't need to have the details of the contact prayer in the Quran, because contact prayer has been something which has been in practice from the time of Prophet Abraham, almost 4,000 years ago. And then this is something that has been in practice before the time of Prophet Muhammad, at the time of Prophet Muhammad, and after the time of Prophet Muhammad. But then people, because they are ignorant, because they are arrogant, because they are, some of them are wicked, many of them are ignorant, but some of them are actually intentionally wicked. They want to argue with you to basically try to refute your point and refuse to accept the completeness of the Quran. And when they don't accept the completeness of the Quran, they're looking for something like a type of a source next to Quran, which is Hadith and Sunnah. And then definitely they want to follow up on their own path, and they want to bear the sins of other people on their shoulders as well, because they are misguiding other peoples as well, and diverting them from the right path, which is submission to God alone and only following Quran alone. And so they are argumentative, when you tell them, they don't accept. So next verse says, nothing prevented the people from believing when the guidance came to them, and from seeking the forgiveness of their Lord, except that they demanded to see the same kind of miracles as the previous generations, or challenged to see the retribution beforehand. This is really interesting. And, when people, I mean, just think about the situation. Think about what we have in the Quran as stated very clearly about the history and the recount of the history of several messengers of God. For example, let's talk about Moses. So Moses was told by God. I mean, we know that he was basically at least the only person that we know of in the Quran, according to the verses of the Quran, that God directly talked to him, to Moses, and he was ordered by God to go to Pharaoh. So when he went to Pharaoh, he had basically proof as messenger of proof of messengership and proof of what he was saying, right? So we know that he had 9 profound miracles. 2 of them were shown to them right on the spot in the palace of Pharaoh when he went to them, and one of them was his staff turned into a serpent, and the other one was his hand became white. And this is something that, well, it was shown to them, right? But then the people who were there, including Pharaoh and some obviously clergymen of that time, they didn't accept the nature of these miracles. So when they looked at them, when they looked at the staff turning into serpent or the hand becoming white, they said that this is magic. This is not miracle. So they didn't accept that, and it technically didn't matter what else Moses was equipped with to show to them. They still wouldn't have believed. The same goes, my understanding is that the same goes with the mathematical miracle of the Quran that we have already talked about in several sessions, that it is absolutely fantastic. But then it's really interesting that when you talk to the people and you tell them about the mathematical miracle of the Quran, they say, so what? This is really interesting. They exactly say what the Quran tells us and prophesies that the people will say about the mathematical miracle of the Quran, Surah 74, verse 31. So they, if for example, if it's so, what this verse is telling us is that nothing prevented the people from believing when the guidance came to them and from seeking the forgiveness of their Lord, except that they demanded to see the same kind of miracles as the previous generations. So if something of the previous generations was shown to them, still they wouldn't have believed. Still these people would not believe. They say that they would say, we have in other parts of the Quran that say that our eyes are bewitched, right? So basically they would still not believe. They're not gonna come around. They're not gonna come to their senses, because they are looking for something. They're demanding something that, no matter if that demand is given to them and it is provided for them, they are not going to believe. And they say that this is magic, or they would say that our eyes are bewitched, or they say that no, this guy is a magician, or this guy is a liar, or this guy is a fraud. So basically, the people who don't want to believe, they are just bringing excuses, because the nature of the miracles is basically for the time of the people. For example, for the time of Moses, miracles were what, like related to stuff which were on the tapestry of magic. So there were magicians, and magic was a big deal. So God gave miracles to Moses which were on the same line, so that when magicians, we know from the Quran, when magicians saw the things that Moses provided, specifically the throwing of the staff which turned into a serpent, the magicians understood that this is not magic and this is a miracle. So that's the difference between miracle and magic. Magic is something that people fabricate, and they bewitch the eyes of the people and stuff like that, and it is a sleight of hand or stuff like that. But then miracle is something that cannot be explained. You see it to be true, but you cannot explain it. You cannot logically explain how this has happened. The same goes with mathematical miracle of the Quran. And we have talked about it in several sessions, that there is a mathematical miracle in the structure of the basically this book, this Quran, and this is absolutely fantastic, and that's what makes it a miracle. And many people are obviously blind to it. When you tell them, they just pass by it. So the same goes with the time of Moses. You would say, how is it possible that so many people crossed the Red Sea, and still when they crossed the Red Sea, and when the Red Sea was opened right in front of their eyes, and we have it in the Quran that the walls were just like hills, they were as gigantic as hills. Still, when they passed by the Red Sea, and they saw that the army of Pharaoh has been drowned, still they didn't turn righteous, and they started worshiping the calf. So that's what we understand from the verses of the Quran. Subhanallah. Or here it says that, or challenged to see the retribution beforehand. So they are also mocking. That's exactly what happened to all the people during the time of different messengers of God. For example, Prophet Noah. Well, Noah told them you have to worship God alone, right? But then what happened? They were just mocking, they were laughing, they were just calling him names. They wanted to worship their own gods that we have those names in the Quran, and they didn't believe. Technically, they didn't believe. Very few people believed in the message of God and were with Noah. Even the wife of Noah didn't believe. Even the son of Noah didn't believe. So that's something that we see very clearly in the Quran. And so they challenge to see the retribution beforehand. But the thing is that retribution will come exactly at the moment that it is supposed to come. Not 1 second sooner, not 1 second or 1 moment later. It is going to come at the moment that it is supposed to come. So nobody can ask to see the retribution beforehand, like earlier than the time is supposed to. And interestingly enough, according to the verse of the Quran, it will come exactly at the moment that they don't expect it. Subhanallah. Praise be to God. God be glorified. This is absolutely fantastic as we see how retribution is coming to the people. Many people think that it's just, it's not going to come. It's never come. These are all stories. Fine. They can believe whatever they want to believe. But at the moment that it's going to come, when the retribution comes, there is no returning from it. There's nothing that they can do about it because they have been given enough time, and they mocked, and they challenged, and they refused, and they brought excuses, and they were wicked. And at the moment that the retribution comes to them, retribution comes at the moment that there is no point of return. And that is something that is coming from God, and they're going to be done. Basically, they're going to be dead. We only send the messengers as simply deliverers of good news as well as warners. Those who disbelieve argue with falsehood to defeat the truth, and they take my proofs and warnings in vain. See? So they just don't understand. They disbelieve, those who disbelieve argue with what? With falsehood. They have no proof. They have no reasoning. They just have falsehood. They have nonsense. They have fallacy. At best, they have logical fallacy. And what they have is not going to do, it is not going to get them anywhere, and in the end, they're going to be defeated. They want to defeat the truth, but they are the ones who are going to be defeated because they are taking the proofs of God, the signs of God, and the warnings of God in vain. So God tells them, several times tells them, like it was in the morning that Shima and I wanted to go for a walk. And so we went to a very beautiful location, subhanAllah, praise be to God, close to the sea for a walk. And we saw a person, think about it, just like 7:30 a.m., or it was 8 probably, that he just got up from his bed and he was standing there. And na'uzu billah, we should all seek refuge in God from Satan the rejected. He had a big sign on his car that said that, he said something about Jesus, said that Jesus, savior, or save me, or say this and stuff like that. So he was technically blaspheming right in the morning, 8 a.m. in the morning, he started blaspheming. And we have it in the verses of the Quran that, mountains are going and the sky is going to crumble, the mountains are going to crumble out of reverence for God. And then when people are blaspheming, they don't understand what they are doing, right? So God is giving them the warnings. Even if you look at the verses of the Bible, you'd never see anywhere in the Bible Jesus saying that he's God or Nauzubillah, son of God, or anything like that. But you see how people blindly disbelieve and blindly following the path of unrighteousness and following the path of disbelievers. And they are trying to argue with falsehood to defeat the truth. What is the truth? The truth is that there's only one God, right? But these people insistently want to go to hell. They want to go to hell. They actively are trying everything that they can in their power to go to hell, which is stupid. Why would you do that? It's like, for example, you have a company, for example, say, and you are actively trying to make your company bankrupt. That's exactly what they are doing, right? They don't want to have a good life. They want to go to hell. That's exactly what they're trying to do. And they're trying to argue with falsehood to defeat the truth. And you see very clearly the verses of the Quran, because as the messenger of the covenant, Dr. Rashad Khalifa says, the Quran is for all times. From the moment that it was basically revealed to Prophet Muhammad to the end of the world, the Quran is for all times. So you see that the same verses apply to every situation, and you see so many examples in different communities that people are doing that, very, very clearly. Subhanallah. Divine intervention. Who are more evil than those who are reminded of their Lord's proofs, then disregard them without realizing what they are doing? Consequently, we place shields on their hearts to prevent them from understanding it, the Quran, and deafness in their ears. Thus, no matter what you do to guide them, they can never ever be guided. It's very, very important, So God says, who are more evil, right? So God says that there are evil people, but who is more evil? And that's a sort of a question, which is, we call it rhetorical question. We don't need an answer for this. It's very clear. But the Quran is stating it in this way to, attract our attention more to the topic at hand. And God says, who are more evil than those who are reminded of their Lord's proofs, then disregard them without realizing what they are doing. I'm sure that it has happened to all of us, that we talk to people around us and you tell them about the mathematical miracle of the Quran, you tell them about the messengership of Dr. Rashad Khalifa, messenger of the covenant. You sit down with them, you talk to them, you tell them, but still they are so technically what we are doing is that we are reminding those people of God's proofs, right? Then those people disregard those proofs without realizing what they are doing. That's very, very interesting. And God says that who is more evil than that? Means that they are very, very evil people, that they are disregarding the message of God. And what happens? So this is the cause. This is what they are doing. So we have the iron law of human destiny, and that is the iron law of cause and effect, right? You have a cause and then you have an effect. So the cause is very clear. What are they doing? They are disregarding the proofs of God without realizing that they are doing that, or even realizing that they are doing it. Obviously, whatever it is, the case is that they are disregarding the message. So when they are told, they don't accept it, they disregard it. So this is the cause. So they are doing something. They are actively making an effort, making an action willingly on their own volition. It's not that, for example, anybody is forcing them to disregard the message. No, it is they themselves who are disregarding the message. And as a result, so basically this is the cause. And as a result, consequently, this would be basically the effect of that. So cause and then effect. So what would be the effect? God says in the Quran, consequently, we place shields on their hearts to prevent them from understanding it, the Quran, and deafness in their ears. Thus, no matter what you do to guide them, they can never ever be guided. So this is the basically effect of the cause, which is mentioned here. So this is the cause, this is the effect, and that's it. So when that happens, what can we do? God says that no matter what you do to guide them, they can never ever be guided. So this you can be the messenger, can be the prophet, can be us, in no matter what we do to try to guide them, to tell them, to bring them out of, their ignorance into the light, they can never ever be guided because they have actively tried to disregard the God's proofs, Lord's proofs. And then consequently, this is what happens. So we place, when we have the pronoun we, it is talking about God and his angels. And this is the system of God, that he does some of the things which are supposed to be done in these universes, basically 7 universes, through angels. And if God wanted to design it in a different way, he would have definitely been capable of doing it, but just so happens that this is the way, and we are aware of it. Subhanallah. So, and this is really interesting that many Christians who want to also try to argue with falsehood to defeat the truth are trying, and they just bring this out of the context and say that, oh, look, we have we here. So God here is talking about the 3 persons, the nonsense trinity that they have. No, this is not true. And we know according to the verse of the Quran that this we refers to God and his angels. That wherever we have the pronoun we, it is referring to God and his angels. That's what it means. Subhanallah. Praise be to God, Lord of the universe, for the information that we have provided to us by the messenger of the covenant, Dr. Rashad Khalifa. And that's how, by the will of God, we are listening to these things, we are reading this, we are thinking about them and trying to understand them better. Subhanallah. Now, yet your Lord is the forgiver, full of mercy. If he called them to account for their deeds, he would annihilate them right there and then. Instead, he gives them a respite until a specific predetermined time. Then they can never escape. Subhanallah. Subhanallah. The judgment comes, the retribution comes, but then it has a specific time. See? If he called them to account for their deeds, meaning that right at that moment, if you do something wrong, if God wanted to call you to account for it, right? He would have annihilated them right there and then, so any one of us would have been destroyed right there and then, specifically going back to the time of the feud in the high society. If God, we know that one of the names of God, or one of the features of God, is most merciful. God decided, and it was because he's most merciful, he gave us one other chance, or else if it was up to angels, we would have been thrown into hell. But God, Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim, gave us one more chance. And this chance that we have right here on the surface of this planet Earth is that chance that is until a very specific time, a predetermined time for every single one of us. We have a single specific predetermined time provided for us, and that time is something that nobody is aware of. Only God knows about it, and we are respited until that specific time. If we go right, if we go on the right path, fine. If we go on the wrong direction, then when the retribution comes, then they can never escape. That will be it. That will be the end of it. So this is very, very specific, and only God knows about it. Subhanallah. Many a community we annihilated because of their transgressions. We designated a specific time for their annihilation. Subhanallah. That designation of the specific predetermined time for the annihilation is absolutely fantastic, and nobody can run away from it. Look at all the recount of history that we have in the Quran. Sodom and Gomorrah, the people of Ad, the people of Samud, the people of Noah, the people of Median, the people of the people of, what is that? there are many the people of Pharaoh, basically, the Egyptians. So every community has a predetermined, pre-designated specific time for their annihilation, and when it comes, it comes. There is nothing that can be done about it. And we know it from the Quran that when two messengers of God, who were angels, basically went to Prophet Abraham to give him glad tidings of the birth of Isaac, his second son, um, they told Abraham that they are messengers of God who are supposed to go to Sodom and Gomorrah and destroy it, basically annihilate the people up there. And we know that Prophet Abraham tried to talk to them and see if there is any way that couldn't happen. And they said that, okay, the Abraham, stop this. It is predetermined. It's going to happen. So there is no running away from it. It's a designated specific time for their annihilation. We don't know when it is for any given society right now. For example, say so many countries or so many communities around the world, you see that how wicked, how corrupted, how, I don't know what to call it, how vice is just going rampant in those communities and countries. And sometimes people might ask, okay, so when is it going to come? Well, we don't know. A specific time, there is a designated, a specific time for their annihilation, and it's going to come for them eventually. There is no running away. There is no running away. Every community, will be given the timeline, and the timeline will happen to them, and they will be annihilated at the very moment that they don't expect it. Subhanallah. And this is the beautiful beauty of Quran, the beautiful verse of the Quran that help us understand this. The more we think about it, the more, inshallah, we can understand from the verses that it is true about all times, basically. Valuable lessons from Moses and his teacher. Now, this is the history of Moses and a teacher that Dr. Khalifa said in one of the audios that it might have been an angel, that was supposed to teach Moses some lessons, basically. And let's read it together. It's really interesting. SubhanAllah. Moses said to his servant, I will not rest until I reach the point where the two rivers meet, no matter how long it takes. When they reached the point where they met, they forgot their fish, and it found its way back to the river sneakily. After they passed that point, he said to his servant, let us have lunch. All this traveling has thoroughly exhausted us. He said, this is the servant saying to Moses, remember when we sat by the rock back there? I paid no attention to the fish. It was the devil who made me forget it, and it found its way back to the river strangely. Moses said, that was the place we were looking for. They traced their steps back. They found one of our servants. This one of our servants, Dr. Khalifa says that probably he was an angel. They found one of our servants whom we blessed with mercy and bestowed upon him from our own knowledge. See, we blessed with mercy and bestowed upon him from our own knowledge. Moses said to him, now, this is the conversation between Moses and that servant of God, basically, that messenger of God, basically, whoever that person was. Again, could have been an angel. Moses said to him, can I follow you that you may teach me some of the knowledge and the guidance bestowed upon you? He said, you cannot stand to be with me. Now, this is servant of God talking. Now, how can you stand that which you do not comprehend? This is really interesting. How can you stand that which you do not comprehend? He said, now this is Moses speaking. He said, you will find me, God willing, patient. See, قَالَ سَتَجِدُنِي إِنْ شَاءَ اللَّهُ صَابِرًا, right? So he said, you will find me, God willing, patient. I will not disobey any command you give me. So now he's promising that he's not going to disobey any of the commands that servant of God is going to give him, give Moses, basically. Now he's promising, he's trying to be patient. Now, He said, now that servant of God is saying, if you follow me, then you shall not ask me about anything unless I choose to tell you about it. Now, this is the part that, I'm sure that if any of us was in that situation, if those things which are going to, will be told to us, that what were the things that happened, then definitely we would have, asked a question. At least I would have asked a question, why are you doing these things, So this is really interesting, the lesson that we are learning from this, that the messengers of God are not different from us in the sense of being human, and they are inquisitive. They want to ask questions. It is one of the natures, one of the natural characteristics of humans to ask questions. They are inquisitive. They want to know. They want to ask questions. They want to know. They want to get to the bottom of it. Technically, and so Moses also, being a human, would have questions as well, but he was here like say that, okay, you will find me, God willing, patient. I will not disobey any command you give me. Now that servant is saying again, if you follow me, then you shall not ask me about anything unless I choose to tell you about it. Now here we go. So they went. When they boarded the ship, he bore a hole in it. See, now you just get onto a ship, the guy is sitting there, and he's just like making a hole into the ship. Just think about it, That's very, very bizarre. That's very strange. Now Moses said, did you bore a hole in it to drown its people? You have committed something terrible. See, now he was not patient. See, he didn't know the reason for that action, and since he was like impatient and by basically being a human, uh, he's just judging that person. Say that, okay, you bore a hole in the ship to drown its people. Like that was a question. That's what he thought at that moment, and then said that, okay, you have committed something terrible. He's judging that, like Moses is judging that servant of God. He said, did I not say that you cannot stand to be with me? See, you are not patient. That servant of God is telling Moses, you're not patient. I told you cannot stand to be with me. Now Moses is saying he's sorry. He said, I am sorry. Do not punish me for my forgetfulness. Do not be too harsh with me. Okay, now he's trying to be patient, and he's trying to say that, okay, next time, whatever happens, probably I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to look for, what is going to come next. Little did he know that the next one is going to be, different than this one. This one was just like bearing a hole in the ship. The other one was different. Let's go for it. So they went. Now this is the second occurrence. When they met a young boy, he killed him. So just think about it. Like you are with a person, and that person kills a boy. Now here Moses said, why did you kill such an innocent soul who did not kill another soul? You have committed something horrendous. See, he was not patient. Again, he didn't know what was happening, because he didn't have the whole picture. He didn't know the reason behind those actions which were happening. And so this is the second occurrence that have happened. Obviously, even if it was us, we would have said the same thing. I'm sure that nobody would have said anything different, because we are impatient, and by being humans, we are it is our natural characteristic that we think that, okay, that occurrence is vice, that's horrendous, that's bad, don't do that. Why did you do that? Then he said again, did I not tell you that you cannot stand to be with me? Now this time again, Moses, so what I understand is that, okay, if it was like he didn't know that was a servant of God, probably he would have stopped going after this person, but probably he knew that that person in front of him was a servant of God, and as Dr. Khalifa says, that so if it was an angel, it was in the form of a human being, right? So in the form of a man. So probably my understanding, we can discuss this, but probably my understanding is that after, well, okay, this bearing a hole into the ship, okay, he was trying to be patient, but then killing a person, right? When that happened, if he didn't know that he's going to be taught something or he's going to learn something from these things that are happening, he would have potentially stopped following that person. So, but again, we see that in 76, Moses said, if I ask you about anything else, then do not keep me with you. You have seen enough apologies from me. So I think that from this verse that he probably knew that he's going to be taught something, and this person is a servant of God. So he had this idea that, okay, probably there is a reason behind it. But he didn't know what it was, obviously. So they went. Now the third occurrence. When they reached a certain community, they asked the people for food, but they refused to host them. So that community refused to host them. Soon they found the wall about to collapse, and he fixed it. So that servant of God fixed the wall. Now this is quite different from the other two things that have happened, right? So there was a ship, he bored a hole into it. There was a boy, he killed the boy. Now there is a wall about to collapse, and he fixed it. And that's really bizarre, you know. Like, for example, you just going with somebody, you find a wall which is about to collapse, and the person says, okay, wait here, I'm going to fix this, you know. And he fixed it, you know. That's very bizarre. That's very strange technically. Now, here again, Moses says something, says, you could have demanded a wage for that, right? See, this is, probably a very natural human, reaction to such occurrence. He didn't say anything. He said that at least, okay, now you fixed it. At least you could have demanded a wage for that. Now, here we have the subtitle provided to us by the Messenger of the Covenant. Dr. Rashad Khalifa says that there is a good reason for everything. Now, here, that servant of God is telling Moses, now we have to part company, but I will explain to you everything you could not stand. See, now he is going to explain the reasons behind all those three things that have happened. As for the ship, it belonged to poor fishermen, and I wanted to render it defective so that it doesn't work, right? So he bore a hole into it so that it couldn't go anywhere. There was a king coming after them who was confiscating every ship forcibly. So see, now he was technically doing a favor to the poor fishermen. See, but on the surface level, it looked very bad. It looked very terrible, right? But there was a very good reason behind it, right? And this is how God was protecting those fishermen from that king, from that probably bad king that was confiscating every ship forcibly, by force, not by, by law or by rules or by regulations, by force. He was doing that, because he was a king, at that moment, obviously. And he was a bad king that he was doing that, obviously. So this was a blessing from God on those people, poor fishermen, and at least they didn't lose their ship. As for the boy, so that was the first occurrence. The second occurrence, as for the boy, his parents were good believers, and we saw that he was going to burden them with his transgression and disbelief. That's very deep, because God knows about the future, and God has let that servant of his to know that, okay, the boy was supposed to be killed, and this is the reason behind it, right? And that was the time for the boy to happen. And technically, again, when you know it, like, for example, you would think that, okay, now this is very bad, and see, like, for example, some people who don't understand the Quran and they don't look at the whole tapestry of all the verses and all the things which are occurring in the Quran, all laws and regulations, they would say that, God, Na'uzubillah, we should all seek refuge in God from Satan the rejected. That they would say that, okay, so God is, ordering vice. But again, according to the Quran, we know that إن الله لا يأمر بالفحشاء. That's a iron law in the Quran that says that God never advocates vice. So if that is happening, first of all, the boy is going to go to the lower heaven. So that's the first thing, because it's under the age of 40. So the boy is going to go to the lower heaven. So good for the soul of the boy. The boy is gone. Now the parents are good believers, and God is going to protect those good believers, right? God always protects believers, right? That's another law in the Quran, that He always protects the believers, right? So God knows that they were good believers, and this boy is going to turn out to become a bad person, right? We saw that he was going to burden them with his transgression and disbelief. So if he was to be left alive, he was going to burden the good believers, the good parents, with his transgression and disbelief. Why? Because no matter what they did, it was their son, right? What could they do? It was their own blood. They couldn't do anything about it. So basically, what God did, that He was protecting His good believers, right? And taking the boy obviously to the lower heaven. So there's no vice being committed here. And when people don't understand the Quran, they don't understand the context of this verse, and then they would be soon to judge. They would be like, for example, Moses, at that moment, because he didn't know why. And then he said to the servant of God that you have committed something horrendous, right? Anybody would have said that, right? But there is a very, very good reason behind that. And in the footnote, we have Dr. Khalifa, the Messenger of the Covenant, has written very clearly, Adolf Hitler was a cute and seemingly innocent child. Had he died as a child, many would have grieved, and many would have even questioned God's wisdom. And I'm sure that would have happened, right? Exactly the same thing that would have happened here. And also Moses had that, idea at that moment, but he knew that he was being taught something. So he just said that he's sorry. So many people would have grieved, and many would have even questioned God's wisdom. We learned from these profound lessons that there is a good reason behind everything. So now, say at this moment that we are, the year 2025, now thinking back about the history, think about not only Adolf Hitler, any other tyrant of that sort, Stalin, Lenin, Khomeini, Gaddafi, just name all the tyrants in the world. So if you knew that, you were aware of the future, and you knew that, okay, these people are going to become tyrants, and they're going to persecute people, oppress people, kill people, torture people, commit so many vices, attribute lies to God, corrupt the religion of God, um, um, uh, hide behind the mask of religion, seemingly saying that they are, representatives of God on the surface of the planet Earth. If these people would have been dead as children, knowing that these things were going to happen in the future, would you be sad about that? Would you be sad, like if Adolf Hitler, you knew that Adolf Hitler is going to become like a tyrant and kill so many people during World War II and be the cause of that? Would you be sad that he was dead and none of those things would have happened? Of course not. I'm sure that no sane person would say that, because you know that this is going to happen. If this person is left alive, if Adolf Hitler is left alive, he's going to cause all these tyranny and atrocity on mankind. Would you then be sad? No. So the same thing would have been here, that as for the boy, right, his parents were good believers, and we saw that he was going to burden them with his transgression and disbelief. So God, being aware of the future, knew that this is going to happen. So he stopped it from happening. Why? Because his parents were good believers. SubhanAllah. This is very, very deep, and it takes time for people to understand. But there is a very, very good reason behind everything. And if you really want to be a submitter, you need to understand these verses, and inshallah understand why these things are happening. SubhanAllah. Now, this was the second one. So the first one was the ship for the poor fisherman. The second one was this boy who was going to be a wicked person and burden his parents who were good believers. He was going to burden them with his transgression and disbelief, like, for example, say, like Adolf Hitler. And then the third one, we will that your Lord substitute in his place another son, subhanallah, in the place of that son, right, who was killed by that servant of God, another son was supposed to be born. And again, when we think about it, we think that, okay, that's, you might look at it from another perspective, and you would say that, okay, At any rate, our life is in the hand of God, you know. Any one of us has a certain predetermined timeline. So if that boy was supposed to be dead, what is the difference between being killed by a messenger of God who was an angel, obviously, or his soul being taken away from him? Would have been the same, right? Still, the boy would have been done, right? And then again, being a boy and it was under the age of 40, there's no harm done because he's going to lower heaven. So, but if he was left alive and he would get more than the age of 40, he would become a transgressor and a disbeliever. And then eventually he had to die at some point. And if that was supposed to happen, then it would have been worse, right? He would have been going to hell. So it was actually a blessing from God that this boy was going to go to heaven, to the lower heaven. So that's actually, looking from another perspective, still it's something that good happened for that boy and also for the parents, you know. And not only that happened, another son was given to them. We will that your Lord substitute in his place another son, subhanallah, one who is better in righteousness and kindness. Now they have a good son, they have a righteous son, a kind son, you know, subhanallah. Now the third one. As for the wall, it belonged to two orphan boys in the city. Under it there was a treasure that belonged to them, to the two orphan boys. Because their father was a righteous man, subhanallah, your Lord wanted them to grow up and attain full strength, then extract their treasure, the treasure that belonged to those two orphan boys. Subhanallah. Subhanallah. You might cry, you know, when you think about it, that how God is Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, you know, most gracious, most merciful, that he's providing for every single creature on the surface of planet Earth. Subhanallah. Such is mercy from your Lord. I didn't, and this is the thing that servant of God is saying again, very possibly an angel. Now he's saying, I did none of that on my own volition, meaning that he did not do any of those things by his own will. It was the will of God that those things happened. The bearing of the hole in the ship, the killing of that potentially transgressing son that was going to happen, and it was going to become a transgressor, and the fixing of that wall for those two orphan boys in the city. This is the explanation of the things you could not stand. See? So that's very, very interesting. SubhanAllah. And with this, inshallah, I'm going to end the Quran study here. And inshallah, let's discuss the verses, inshallah, in the next next section, in the next part of the Quran study. Thank you so much for listening to me. May God bless you all, guys.
May God bless you, brother. MashaAllah.
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 MashaAllah. God bless you.
MashaAllah. Alhamdulillah. I prepared a lot of stuff for Zulqarnain and Gog and Magog. We didn't get to that. You know, so inshallah, next session we will discuss them. Inshallah. Any comments or questions on the verses? We ended at 82 and we started at 54.
MashaAllah, you explained everything. Just a reminder that, you know, those instances happening to Moses, the things he learned from that servant of God, are actually blessings in disguise, as far as I understand. That something happens and on the surface it's not something good, but you know, there's a reason behind it, and things happen in our lives that we might not like it. And as far as we try to be righteous and to be submitters to God alone, when these things happen, we should put our trust in God and fully trust God and know that He is omniscient, He's omnipotent. You know, He sees all different angles of our lives, and this thing happening is not the end of our life. And you know, there's always a good thing coming out of it that we are not aware of it. So we just put our trust in God, and praise be to God. God has proved this to us over and over, that He never allows any injustice coming to submitters, any bad thing, you know, when they don't deserve it, you know, when they are fully submitting, when they're, you know, staying on the right path and steadfastly persevering, God protects the submitters, and always good things happen to submitters. As the messenger of God said, and Dr. Rashad Khalifa, actually, the life of a submitter is going to get better and better every day. So, you know, we just should, you know, believe in that, and that's truly believe in that, and know that anything that is happening, as long as I am upholding God's commandments, is going to lead to something great. And just be patient and know that God is with you. MashaAllah.
MashaAllah, alhamdulillah. But I have one question. So if we say that they are blessing in disguise, you know, we know that the definition of blessing in disguise would be something that, you know, Satan is afflicting, but then it is turned around and, you know, done in a better way by God, right? But this is something like these three things that were happening in the Quran, you know, as we have the recount of history, that servant of God, very possibly an angel, he was doing that. He was doing it, right? He was not doing, like, Satan was not doing those things, and they were I would call them blessings from God, but I wouldn't call them blessing in disguise, you know, in that sense of blessing in disguise that Dr. Khalifa, the messenger of covenant, explained in the video King of Chaos. Do you agree with that, or do you think that it's a different thing? Because I think that those three things were designed by God to teach Moses something, you know. They were not like blessing in disguise in that sense that we have for blessing in disguise in the descriptions of the four calamities or adversities that are going to happen for people, as like test, blessing in disguise, pinch, and retribution. Any idea?
I mean,
Sister, very, very low voice. Yeah.
that's it.
Better,
Yes.
mashallah.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
Right. When things happen to us, we don't know the reason behind it, right? So all we can do really is to put our trust in God. And we need to make sure that we don't question what God does. Why did this happen to me? Why did you do that to me? Astaghfirullah. I mean, like, we hear that, people saying this. So we should be steadfast, and we should persevere. And if we put our trust in God, we know that God says, "Do not grieve whatever you." Well, I'm paraphrasing again. So do not grieve over whatever you lose, and do not start rejoicing whatever you gain, or something like that. If I said it correctly, I can look for it.
Yeah, I'm looking for it, inshallah. Please continue. I will share it, inshallah.
Yes. So even Moses, knowing that this person is authorized by God, has been given knowledge and wisdom by God, still he questioned it. Do you know what I mean? He questioned the action, not God. He questioned the person, he questioned the action. And then this person in the very beginning says, how can you be with me, and how can you tolerate whatever what you don't have any knowledge of, you know, so you don't know the reason behind it. So again, there is a possibility that we at some point in our life we will be like, why is this happening to me, you know? But we just have to put our trust in God and be steadfast, and then we will learn in the future why this has happened to us, or what's the reason.
I agree with that, but my question was more about, not the why of something, more like about, if we say that, for example, the three things that happened to those people, right? The three things that were happening at that location in time and place, that servant of God was doing, like bearing a hole in the ship, killing the son, right? The son of those righteous parents, right? We can't call them blessing in disguise, right? Can we call them blessing in disguise? Yeah, go ahead, Shima. Yeah, sure.
So I don't know how to. I raised my hand, but I don't know how to stop it. But anyway.
Well, you stopped it. Yeah.
Okay.
Just
okay. So the messenger of covenant said that the blessings in disguise are also inflicted by Satan, and but what I understand is that God allows Satan to kind of like test us, but at the same time when we come out of it, so what I'm saying is that even a blessing in disguise, if we lose our patience, if we complain, I think it's going to not going to happen or something like that. I don't know. I'm not.
Well, we cannot.
So what you're saying is that you're saying that why is an angel doing this? Well, we know that Satan actually does that. The blessing in disguise actually are inflicted by Satan, but God turns it into a blessing. But the thing is that we don't know. This is a teaching class for Moses.
Yeah. That's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah.
That could be an exception to teach something to Moses and to all of us.
Exactly.
And I still call this a teaching, a course for Moses and for us to learn. But also the messenger of covenant said that Satan inflicts the first three types of disaster. So I don't see any contradiction between these two. They can go together. This one is a teaching class for, something for Moses to learn and to show us that even the messenger of God can, lose patience because they're human beings and can question in a way what that angel was doing. But they are not different than us, and then give us an explanation. But still, for that parent, they lost a child. And on the surface, that's something painful, But I think in their eyes, that could be considered, outside this teaching class, for them, that could be considered a blessing in disguise. Like for that person who, is their ship is like, there's a hole in their ship. They might say, okay, what is this? Why this happened to me? And then they had no idea that God was protecting them through that. So you're asking, why is it an angel doing this and not Satan doing it? Let's not, go there and this.
An angel. I'm saying that it's simply the fact that it's being done by an angel, and the angel said that I didn't do any of it on my own volition. Basically, it was by the will of God. I was saying that this could not potentially be considered blessing in disguise, because blessing in disguise is something that is done by Satan, but then God turns it around and does it for
I know,
good
but
reason.
Satan doesn't teach Moses anything. I mean, maybe couldn't have Satan in this scenario talking to Moses and Moses saying, I want to learn something from you, teach me something. That could be an example that, an angel of God was showing him. That's what I understand. I mean,
and
I
then
don't
for
think
those
Satan
people,
had any role in this, or couldn't be a teacher to Moses.
And then those people, like, for example, like those poor fishermen or those parents could potentially have that bad feeling at that moment that, oh, my son is dead, oh, my ship is there is a hole
or
in
maybe
it.
not.
Right?
Yeah, maybe not.
Or
Because
maybe
they
not.
were
And then
righteous.
after that, they understand that, okay, the king was coming. Oh, thank God that, the king was coming and there is a hole in my ship. Or thank God my son is dead because he was going to become a transgressor and now I have a better son. Maybe. We don't know that exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. MashaAllah.
There is an audio 20, minute 34. That's where the messenger talks about the fact that we should have full confidence in God. And grieving over anything that you miss and worrying about the future means that you are not in God's dominion. And then he talks about the job interview and he said, like, you go for a job interview, you apply for a job and you don't get it. And you should not grieve, right? Because of not having that. It's you would understand that God doesn't want this for you for some reason, right? And then because God sees the roads ahead of you and picks out the road that is best for you. So you must have full confidence in God. And that's around the fact that for the believers, they have no grief and no worry. That we should, it is not easy. It is not easy. I'm saying it again. But inshallah, with full confidence in God, inshallah, it would make things easier for us. So these are this is the way that God chooses our path for us. If we are believers, God chooses the best for us. There is a verse that says, but again paraphrasing, that the human being is impatient. So we may pray for something that is not good for us, right? But then God knows what's good for us, because God knows things that we cannot know and we do not know. The things that are going behind the scene or things that are happening in the future. But then because God is all knowing, he knows what's good for us. And then he arranges things in the best possible way for the believers. So I think that's the reason. So if that fisherman is a believer and he sees that his boat has been damaged, he would not grieve. Do you know what I mean? He would not go around and say like, oh, I'm this and that, or this is my life is this and that. You know,
my life is ruined.
Exactly. Well, I'm so unlucky. I've always been unlucky. You know, things like that. So you would know that, you know, as a person of God, you know, as a believer, have full trust in God and say, inshallah, well, something good comes out of it, or I put my trust in God, and He's all knowing. So, and shouldn't I think it's a blessing or a blessing in disguise. This is how God supports the believers. This is how God helps the believer. Like, for example, when that person builds that wall, he said, your God willed, because their father was a believer, your God willed that they will reach maturity so that they can use this treasure. This God is supporting the believer. Subhanallah. Yeah.
Subhanallah. What was that audio that you mentioned, sister? Which audio was that?
It's audio number 20, and it's minute 34 onwards, I believe.
34. Okay, let me just play it. Inshallah, I brought it up. I didn't know which verse, which minute it was. So let me just play it. See, do you have the audio?
Back and forth.
You have it?
Yes.
Yes. In what you believe and what you practice. I'll stop at here and, as they say, open the floor for discussion. Any questions?
I want to go to what you mentioned about no grief, no worry, no grief, and no
fear.
So this seems to come up every time we go around the subject, as you notice, because it is very difficult for us, the human nature, it's very difficult for us to come through with this full confidence in God. And I've noticed it over many, many years with many, many believers. They eventually come around. But it's very difficult to talk them out of insurance, for example. Just don't have that confidence.
Interesting. The topic of insurance again comes up. MashaAllah.
It takes a long time to grasp that. It is also takes a long time to use this criterion. No grief and no fear. So I want you to listen to me. I'm going to repeat it again. God repeats in the whole Quran. And it seems to float over our heads. So just for the moment, including myself, I want to imagine that this is for you. Don't let anybody or the companion tell you this is for somebody else. It is not for me. I want you to, this is directed to you. If you grieve over anything you missed. Or if you're worried about anything in the future, you are not in God's dominion. You have to apply this criteria to yourself. So ask yourself if you heard me. I'm going to repeat it. If you're grieving over anything you missed, or if you're worried about anything in the future, you are not in God's dominion. So for heaven's sake, find out what is it that is grieving you because you missed something, you lost something. Or what is it that is causing you to worry about the future. Find out what it is, get rid of it, get back into God's dominion. A believer, a criterion of the believer is no grief and no fear. You don't have any grief, you don't have any fear. Whatever situation you're in, you tell God, okay, God, I'm a submitter. I accept whatever you have given me cheerfully. And underline cheerfully. Because God knows best. If you go apply for a job and you don't get it, you don't grieve. You understand that this is, God doesn't want this for you for some reasons. That God knows. He sees the roads ahead of you. And He will pick out the road that is best for you. So you must have that confidence in God. And He runs everything. Remember verse 5. It says, nothing is hidden from God. It's a very black statement. Nothing is hidden from God, including minor affairs. And God guarantees the believers are God's people. They're in His domain. And God is the sovereign of the universe. And He sees to it that you have no grief and no worry. So if you have that, you're not in God's dominion. So
Okay, one thing that I just meant, thought, okay, it's here.
nothing is hidden from God, including minor affairs. And God guarantees the believers are God's people. They're in His
Here.
verse 5. It says, nothing is hidden from God. It's a very black statement.
It is a very blank statement, I think, right? No, what is that? I didn't understand. It's not black. The blank statement, right?
It says, nothing is hidden from God. It's a very black statement.
Blank statement. Okay, so okay, it means like it's just a very general topic for all time, right? That's what it means. Blank statement, right? Is that what it is?
I think it means like it's clear. It's like it stays the same like throughout the time.
Actually, blank statement means generally an empty or unclear statement that conveys no meaningful information or provides no specificity. So that's not blank. It's something else. Whatever it is, it was not black or blank. Okay, so I have to listen to it one more time and see what it is. Anyhow. Okay.
Nothing is hidden from God, including minor affairs. And God guarantees the believers are God's people. They're in His domain. And God is the sovereign of the universe. And He sees to it that you have no grief and no worry. So if you have that, you're not in God's dominion. So you have to find out why. The second part I want to touch here is number 14. It says, alone for the people are the material things of this world.
Okay, mashallah, alhamdulillah. Very great. Mashallah, alhamdulillah.
MashaAllah, perfect.
MashaAllah, and just think about the fact that submitters don't blame themselves. Like as long as we are following God's commandments, if something happens, like for instance, those parents, whose child was dead now. I mean, those submitters that we are reading in these verses. Usually, non-submitters blame themselves. They say like we were bad parents, we are such losers, we could have done something, and that even hurts more, on top of losing a child, you start blaming yourself, but then submitter doesn't do that. Like for in the case of like a hole in the ship, you know, they could have said, oh, we should have done this or that so that we didn't have this, you know, problem. This is a very common human reaction, that when something happens, you start blaming yourself. At least for normal people, you know, usually for narcissists, it's like they blame others, but you know, for normal people, they blame themselves. I could have done something, you know, I should have thought better, you know, do something about it. But for submitters, believing that God is in full control and the fact that we are God willing, following God's commandments, when this thing happens, it could be an admission test or blessing in disguise, or when something bad happens and you know you have done something wrong, you say, oh, this is a pinch. So we have a clear understanding of what's going on in our life. It's not haphazard. It's like, you know what's going on, and you don't blame yourself when you are not in control in terms of blessing in disguise, I mean. And you are just, you know, you stay in the same state. You don't grieve over what you lose, or you don't become so excited when you gain something. You're appreciative, but you don't get super excited because you know Satan can claim you when you are so much, you know, into so happy that you might start, you know, idolizing that thing that God has given you, and you might you know, think about it more than is necessary. So you know, Satan can capitalize on that. So that's something that is a blessing for us, that we can keep our cool, we can just enjoy life. We know that God is sovereign over our life. God is in full control, and he wants the best for us. And when something bad happens, just you can just relax and, you know, let it go. God is in control. And you know it's going to be a blessing in disguise. It's an admission test, and at this during all this time, you do your commandments. You're not, you know, wavering on doing the commandments, and then you see that God turns it over, and it becomes even something good comes out of it. This is how the things that we have been experiencing, even in terms of admission tests. Like when something happens and you know that you know, God willing, I've been doing the commandments, I've been trying to be righteous, and this thing happens. Then you see, when you persevere, you know, God makes it up to you. God provides a really good situation for you that you can enjoy even more, and you can look, you know, behind you on the path that you came out of, and then you enjoy that blessing, you enjoy that lesson that you learned. This is the life of submitters. You know, you're just learning, you're understanding about where you're weak in submission. You're trying to, you know, by God's leave, ask God to help you to not repeat a mistake, a sin, and then you come out stronger. That's a blessing, and we are just psychologically safe. You know, we are psychologically sane compared to non-submitters. Praise God.
MashaAllah. Any other comments or questions?
MashaAllah, brother.
MashaAllah, Alhamdulillah. So if you all agree, and if there are no other comments or questions on topic or off topic, if you all agree, inshallah, we can conclude the session, inshallah.
Inshallah.
All right. So thank you all for joining us today here in the session, and also thank you all, you guys who are watching us online. as well as those who are going to watch the video when it is just like the streaming is stopped and they're going to watch it offline. May God guide us and inshallah help us to stay on the right path. And it's the most important thing that I think needs to be done, that inshallah we stay on the right path until the very end. And thank you so much for everybody who actually discussed and commented on the verses today. And inshallah, our next English Quran study is going to be next week on Saturday at 10 a.m. California time. Until that time, may God be with you. Peace be upon you. Salāmun Alaykum.
God bless you. Salāmun Alaykum.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
سلام علیکم ماشاءالله.
Assalamualaikum everyone.